So the Planet Coaster 2 cat is well and truly out of the bag, but before I say goodbye to the original, I wanted to hop into the first iteration of Global Ventures just to finish off a few small things. Hey everyone, it's M4J here and welcome back to Global Ventures here on Planet Coaster. It has been probably 4 years since I said that, which is crazy. And I know that loads of people are coming back to Planet Coaster right now, even before the recent announcement, which I'll come on to in a second. It's actually just a coincidence. I've been thinking about coming back to this park for a while, and with the new PC, I thought, why not give it a go? So I loaded up the park, had a look at some stuff, and actually I've already recorded the next part of this episode, so I can say now I've done some building, added some things to the park, and can't wait to show you the result. But as I say, it's a coincidence that I just happened to start doing that at the same time as loads of other content creators came back to the game. And with the announcement of Planet Coaster 2, that creates a nice little mini-series here going into the launch of what hopefully will be an excellent sequel when it comes out. I would love to say that I knew all along that Planet Coaster 2 was coming. Having worked with Frontier with F1 Manager, I kind of knew they were going to announce something, because we get info, or we got info. I don't work for racing games anymore, sadly, but we got info about upcoming releases and stuff occasionally with F1 Manager stuff, and I knew that they were announcing something in and around Frontier Unlocked. Wasn't 100% certain that it was going to be Planet Coaster 2. In my mind, I thought it was going to be like Planet Water Park or something, so technically that's true, but to slap some coasters on it as well, I think is a very, very good move from Frontier. It was one of the most requested features of Planet Coaster, was water parks. And now we actually get them, which I think is awesome. Anyway, what's happening here then? So, this is Global Ventures. This is one of 3 parks that are part of an overall resort. Anyone who's watched my old Rollercoaster Tycoon 3 series, Somerset Hills International, I think I've linked it in a few things recently. You'll know what I'm talking about here. This is Global Ventures. This is the sort of generic theme park. Well, I say generic, it's not very generic. It's quite well themed, I'd like to think. This is the theme park side of things anyway. And then we've got Wild Realms, which is the zoo, which I've been building on Planet Zoo, which I will want to go back to at some point as well. And then you've got Ultimate Splashdown, which is the water park, which never got built because there wasn't a game to build it in. Until now, when Planet Coaster 2 launches, we will be building that there, along with a new version of this Global Ventures. We're going to make it a little more compact, make things a little closer together, because I think I went way too big on the scale. The fact that I've got this in ultra settings right now, and you can't really see what's going on in the distance there, tells you all you need to know. Also, just realized, settings, graphics. Why is that on 720? Yeah, that's not what I want. That's why things look a bit fuzzy. Let's fix that, shall we? That's going to make the screen go black for a second, and boom. There we go. Does that make things clearer for you? No. Actually, I don't think it does. That's weird. Hang on one second. I'm just going to put a small cut in here while I fix that, and then we're going to come back. Alright, we're back. Fiddled with some settings. Watched back what I've just recorded, and actually it looks a lot better on there than it did on OBS. So I don't know what OBS is doing, but yeah. I don't know, I've lost my train of thought now as well. So this is a mini-series. I'm just going to be doing some small details, finishing some things off, bits and pieces like that. We'll do a quick park tour as well before we get cracking. Like I said, I've already recorded the next part of this video already, so I know where we're working. And basically, this park's never going to get finished. Not in this version anyway. Hopefully in the next version, in Planet Coaster 2, it will get finished. But I think it's too much to do. Oh wow, there's a massive hole in the roof there that I never even noticed. I think it's too much to do in this one, in the time frame that we've got, because I believe it's probably going to be like around September time that the game comes out, maybe a little bit later. It says autumn 2024, I believe, which takes us anywhere up to December actually, so your guess is as good as mine on that one. I'm just rehiring staff as well. As you can see, we've actually got the park open with people in it, which was incredibly exciting to do. And as you can imagine, they all made a beeline to the roller coasters. And the railway as well to get them around the park, which I think is cool. I'd love to get the sky ride here working. That's on the priorities list, and the boats, if possible. But the sky ride definitely, because that transports people right into the heart of the park over there. So since I'm talking about the park, like I said, it's never going to get finished. I'm going to try and do as much as I can. It's basically just a warm up for when Planet Coaster 2 launches. Let's talk about the park. This is the welcome area then. I've forgotten what its name exactly is, but it basically translates as welcome to the park in French. All the areas in this park, for those of you that don't know, are something of the something. And you'll see what that means in a second. But this is, originally it was just a generic themed welcome plaza, and it was actually positioned here. So the railway would come across this way, and then there was a station here. In fact, you can kind of see the remnants of where it was, and then it would continue around in this direction here. This river didn't exist, the boats didn't exist, the sky ride didn't exist, all this pathway here didn't exist, and this massive building here didn't exist. Eventually I thought, nah, I think I need to move the entrance. I didn't want to move everything else to make the entrance work, so we moved the entrance plaza itself to here, we moved the station to here. We added this lovely building which came off the workshop. I can't actually remember who made it, which is awkward. But basically, the majority of these big buildings, this one here, these facades here, these were all off the Steam Workshop. If it's not off the workshop, I will tell you. Let's put it that way. And if not, assume it's off the workshop. But yeah, we've got one ride in this part, which is this, Around the World in 80 Days, or Autour du Monde on... what's the word for 80? It is 80, I believe. Jour, which is days. As you can imagine, it's based on a mix of the book Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, and also the film starring Steve Coogan and Jackie Chan that came out way too long ago for me to admit now. 2004, I think it was, even earlier than that possibly, which I loved watching in my younger days, and to be honest, I still like watching now. It's got its moments. But yeah, there's elements of this that I'm pleased with. This whole thing here was awful. This is what made me lose interest in building this park, actually, was trying to build this ride, because I could not theme it how I wanted. So I'll show you the scenes in order. We've got drop into London. This is meant to be the Thames, with a bridge going over the top that has the railway. There's a screen in the background there that was meant to just have an image of the Thames. You know, Victorian version of the Thames. Every now and then the train goes across and it adds a bit of atmosphere. From there, they then circle around. This is the Adventurers Club, I believe it is, or the Science... What's the name of the... I think it's the Academy, or something that Phileas Fogg is a member of, where he accepts the bet to travel the world in 80 days. So this is all meant to be London. There's bits and pieces, like I said, that I'm somewhat happy with. There's bits and pieces that I'm not so happy with. It needed more theming. It needed a lot more theming. And this is meant to be like a London street. This is Phileas Fogg here, I believe. And then this is Passport 2. Yeah, enough said about that. This is then them on the first boat over to France. We then come into Paris. And it's all Parisian themed here. You've got the guy... What's his name? Fisk. In Paris, who's trying to jeopardize their attempt. Whether or not he's successful, you have to wait and see. Then we come to this bit, which is Gare de Lyon, where they get on the Orient Express. This is the scene I think I was most happy with. You can see they're all sat around doing their thing. I think Fisk is in here somewhere? No? I thought he was. Oh, is he there? I think he's there in disguise. Yeah. So he disguises himself as a Orient Express staff member. Yeah. And then this bit, they're climbing the Alps on the Orient Express. In fact, is it the Alps or is it it's some mountain range anyway? And then they end up in the mountain and they get kicked off the train for whatever reason. You can see Phileas there reacting to something. Passport 2 just looking bored. This person who... Monique, that's her name. Oh, it is the Alps. There we go. And then over here... somewhere... Where's he gone? There is a Fisk somewhere up here who falls over as well. And I don't know where... Oh, there was a Fisk that fell over. I can't remember where he is. And then this bit is where it just becomes bland, generic, boring. There is meant to be a drop here, which takes you into the Wild West area, which is actually meant to be under the Alps. This was all meant to be like a Wild West town, and there was going to be a shootout and all sorts of things. And then at the end here, this is the race back to Trafalgar Square, and then climbing the stairs. And then in here is the final scene of the ride, which is inside the... But this might have a name. Nope. Do you have a name? Nope. Reform. Ah, is it the Reform Club? Maybe it's the Reform Club. And then, yeah, this is meant to be the end of the ride. And then you've got Fisk over there as well. And it's meant to be a happy ending. They did it. They went around the world in 80 days. And then they come back into the load and unload area. Which I think... Where's the exit? Oh, it's there. I couldn't find it then. Yeah, that's not good. You're supposed to have the exit before the entrance, really. I need to redo that. That's bad. And then you've got the facades on the outside and it all looks fine. All looks dandy. Then we've got the railway station, but enough of that. Over here then, we've got Legend of the Frontier, which is the probably the most complete section of the whole park. It's got 2 roller coasters. It was meant to have loads of other rides as well. They never got built. There was meant to be a dark ride down here, for example, that then got relocated, but again, never got built. In fact, the building for it is here. The old jail, I believe that was meant to be called. But yeah, we got 2 rides here, 2 roller coasters. Manic Miner, which is this one here, which there is a POV of on my channel somewhere. You can see it, I believe, on my website as well. Link to which is in the description. I'm not going to do a ride through now because it will take too long. But essentially, this is my Big Thunder Mountain. You drop down into a mine shaft there. You go up a lift hill. Brings you out over here. You do some drops. It's all fine, all lovely. You get to this break section here, and then you go down into the town of Goldlight, which is the in-universe area that this area of the park takes place in. That's something else about this park. Oh, there's the sound of a train going past. That's the thing about this park is every area is like a town, a city, a village, whatever it might be. They all have names. So the one over at the entrance there, that's meant to be Paris, although you get on the ride in London, which doesn't make much sense, but there we go. So yeah, this is Goldlight, and then the town of Goldlight also spreads over here. And the reason it's called Goldlight is because there's a massive gold mine, which, funny enough, Manic Miner takes place in. Oh, that was a bit glitchy there. This is meant to be the gold mines here. You drop down into the mines there. There's other places where you drop into the mines. And then you've got like the clock tower and then the bank, which we'll come to in a second, because that's the station for the other big ride in this area. And Manic Miner is the one that I'm most happy with. Of all the rides in the park, this is the one that is 100% complete, pretty much. There's some scenery and some theming that I never put in, but for the most part, this area is 100% complete. It's a functioning ride. It's got a functioning queue. It's got a well-built building here for the station, in my opinion at least. This was actually custom built, believe it or not. All of this was custom built. This was meant to be the storage shed for the ride until I realised that that's quite a tight turn. And it says store shed there as well, but it isn't. Spoiler alert, it isn't. So yeah, you go through the town of Goldlight over here. You dive under the railway. You go up the second lift hill. Again, very Big Thunder-esque. Drop down here, do a helix, all this stuff. Bit trick track. Lovely, lovely, lovely. This is the part where the ride starts to lose a little bit of momentum. It's too far away. That's the only critique I have. This should have dropped down this way. Instead it drops down this way. And that's why this area is so massive as well. Because Manic Miner, the station's there and the furthest point is over here somewhere. It's huge. But then you come over here and you go up the third lift hill, which is inside the mountain here. As you can see. And then you do this little meandering thing here. And then it has a massive drop that takes it all the way down. Is there a way that I can see underground? Yeah, there. All the way down to here. I think it reaches like 50 miles an hour. 56 miles an hour, which is pretty speedy for a mine train coaster. And then it rises up here. It does this lovely drop down here, which from the exit path looks gorgeous. And then rises up under the station. There's a nice little head chopper-ish effect there. And then we got this bit, which was meant to be a broken bridge, but this is the part that isn't very well themed, I'll admit. And then it goes round, comes up again. You can see what it does in there. And then it just ends. That's all fine. It's all very nice, very lovely. As you can see by the queue, it's actually quite a popular ride. There's a lot of people queuing for it. and there's a lot of people on it. I think, again, it's one of the busiest rides here. Next up, we got Bandito Escape the West, which, again, it's a complete ride in that it works. It's got a well-themed building, but there's a lot missing here. So let me show you. Fly into here, fly into here. This is the loading area here. There's a lot of timing issues with this ride as well that I want to fix in the next version when it gets built. Whoopsie doodle. Which I want to fix in the next version. So you'll see there's quite a bit of time here. People get on and then it'll just sit here for a bit. Reason being is the block sections are too big. But we'll see that in a minute. So, comes through here, drops down into Black Hole. Does some stuff in the dark, including a helix, tight helix. Does a 0G roll here over the first drop. Rises up into a brake section, which you can see there. Then it comes around the corner. Now, this is meant to be the bit, you're robbing the bank, basically. And where I'm sat now is where the vault is supposed to be. And there was going to be an animated door, and it was meant to be awesome, and it never worked out. It's a shame. What can you do? But yeah, you wait here for a second. That's where the vault door opens. You then swing around here, and oh no, the sheriff's come to arrest you. But fear not, your crew or your gang have an escape plan. And that escape plan involves blasting their way out through the doors here and into what I think is the second fastest ride in the park. I mean, you saw there it flew past. 77 miles per hour you reach. And I think that speed is actually achieved on the exit of this inversion here. I believe it's there, if not here, where it drops slightly lower. This is a banana roll. It's massive. I don't even know how tall that is. And I think it's actually the tallest part of the ride. That's meant to be the tallest part of the ride. We'll see what that is in a second. But I think this actually takes the crown. And the reason this is so tall and the ride is so fast is because I built so many goddamn elements here that I needed the ride to actually have enough momentum to get through it all. So you can see what happens here. Train comes up here, goes through the banana roll, comes back down. We've got a lovely airtime hill here on the exit of that element, which I think actually does achieve airtime, which is quite rare in this game. Into the Immelman here, into the really low 0G roll, which I think looks awesome. That was a custom built inversion, believe it or not. Through the base of the clock tower into an overbank, which was not a custom built element, and I don't like it and I hate it. It's awful. Into the brakes, and then into my favourite part of the ride, which is a dive loop here, which then goes into an extended dive loop here. I tried to make every element different, but these two ended up being quite samey. Then we got a vertical loop here, and then we've got it's an Immelman again, but it's got like a wraparound corkscrew element that very narrowly misses the roof of this building. And then we go into the signature element of the ride. So another brake section into the clock tower. Vertical lift hill here, which you can kind of see just in there. And then we have this. So the story of the ride here is you're surrounded on all sides. There's no way out until someone remembers there's an old abandoned mine shaft that runs under the town. So you climb up, down the drop here, into the tunnel, which is a really long tunnel. You can see here. You'd think this is where the top speed is reached, but I promise you it is not. Yeah, down into the tunnel here. I was hoping this would be the train that we were watching, but never mind. And the tunnel actually exits over here in another Immelman, which, again, not exactly individual elements, as it turns out. Then we've got the wraparound corkscrew. That goes into an overbank, which I think actually counts as an inversion, all things considered. Up into the block brakes, and then dive down under the path into a element here that is very much inspired by Mystery Mine at Dollywood. Overbank here, under the path again, and then it rises up into the brakes. It's quite simple, but it's quite good. Now this roller coaster, were it to be built in real life, would actually hold the world record for the most number of inversions. It has 16. For context, the Smiler is the current record holder, which has 14, I believe. Now this was meant to have 15, it was meant to beat the record by 1. But like I said, I believe it's this overbank here actually counts as an inversion and therefore takes the record. Which was never intended, but it's a happy little accident. Now I'll say the pacing of this ride is off. You'll notice every single time that a train clears the block brakes, there's another one waiting to go. So you see here, that's just gone over, and as soon as this one goes through these brakes, the next train will come through and go through these brakes. So in terms of actual cycling of trains, it's okay. But in terms of everything else, I don't know, is there a way to see throughput on these rides? Is it here? I've no idea. Monthly guests, 295. Rollercoaster Tycoon used to have a guests per hour, but I guess that doesn't really work in this. But there's constantly trains moving. There's always a train on the track somewhere. So there's one going over the peak there. There's one about to enter the brakes at the bottom here. There's one just going through that element there. There's one just finishing off here. There are constantly trains moving, but it has a really low capacity because of the low capacity of the trains. They only hold 16 people, and that weight at the start just kills things. So I've got some lessons to learn here. But yeah, there was meant to be a big Ferris wheel here, wagon wheel. And there was also meant to be a dark ride, the old jail, which was meant to be a shooting ride, which never got built, sadly, but that's that. Over to here then, which is City of the Future, which is the Japanese-themed area. That's the Wild West, by the way, over there, in case you couldn't tell. This is the Japanese-themed area. We've got Gambate Nei here, which was basically one of the first rides I built. It means good luck, apparently, in Japanese. And the idea is you need it because it's quite an intense ride, swings back and forth. Right in the middle of the park here. And by park, I mean the parkland here. This is meant to be themed to a city. There aren't enough high-rise buildings for that to really work right now, but it's meant to be themed to a city. And this is kind of the signature ride of the area. You've then got Crazy Taxi over here, which is a generic Wild Mouse ride, but with a twist. So you see it's actually an El Loco style coaster. And at this point here, you do a beyond vertical drop into this building, which looks pretty nondescript, but there's a vertical loop inside it, and that's the twist. It's a Wild Mouse with an inversion. A bit like what Windjammer Surf Racers was meant to be, but this one's actually good. This is actually based on Rattlesnake at Chesington, sans vertical loop, of course. And this was the first coaster that I built and properly finished in this park. And you can kind of tell that. The theming isn't brilliant, but the fact that I managed to get a queue path in and around this whole structure without actually compromising anything, which I was pretty happy about. I love this, the way the supports here actually went over the path. That was really, really freaking cool. And then priority pass over here, which I don't think anyone uses. It's also quite sad to see not many people actually queuing for this one, but I guess it's a bit tricky to get to right now, so that's probably why. We've then got this ride over here, which is the fastest ride in the park. This is Shinkansen. No prizes for guessing what that's themed on. 127 miles an hour. Originally, it was going to be the tallest and fastest roller coaster in the world, but Saudi Arabia beat me to that. So instead, it's... how tall was it? 423 feet. So that makes it the second tallest currently roller coaster in the world. But once Falcon's Flight opens, it will become the third tallest. And 127 miles an hour, I believe, makes it the third fastest. I think. But yeah. It does its usual thing. Into an accelerator, rises up big tower. This one here though has this banked turn, which then goes into a brake section here. Then it goes around the back of this building, which we'll come to in a second. And it just sort of meanders its way back. And I say meanders, it's probably going about 80, 90 miles an hour here still. And we got another brake section here, which goes into this last little helix, and then this. It's alright. Again, there's changes I'd make to it. But at the time I wanted to build a fast coaster, and there it is. Over here we've got Tech Tours, which is meant to be a tour through a robotics factory that goes wrong, but as you can see it never got finished. The ride itself works, as you can see. None of the animations are triggered, none of the screens are triggered. It's all a bit crap. This was a way too ambitious project. Hopefully in the future I'll have the skills to actually come through and build something like this properly, but it'll be on a much smaller scale, because this is huge. And the only reason it's so big is because it took forever track-wise to get the ride up to this height here, because I was always meant to have a double stacked room here. But if you see how much track there is, this is all sloping uphill at this point. And then yeah, it took way too much effort to make work, so it's a shame it didn't work out, but next time. Hopefully most of these rides are going to be in Planet Coaster 2. We're going to skip the next area. There is one more ride over here actually, which I've forgotten. This is Tower of Terror basically, but it's set to a slightly different theme. Tower 16. Somewhere in here. Where are we? Here we are. So this is the drop ride in the game. This is the part where the cabin goes through. Is it open? It appears to be. Yeah, appears to be open. And you can see how it works. This, again, way too high Doesn't really work scale-wise. What I would have done differently is sunk it into the ground. But yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, now we're going to skip this area. We'll come back to that in a second. This area here, which I think is now called Vibes of the Islands. It was originally called Vibes of the Bahamas, but now it's called Vibes of the Islands. It's a Caribbean themed area. I didn't want it to be something of the Caribbean though, because I feel like that name's already taken. There's only one ride here proper right now, which is this one, which used to be called Raid of the Fort, but it's now called Fortress Raiders. And this is actually, so Manic Miner is the Big Thunder inspired ride, but this is the Big Thunder inspired design. As you'll see, it starts off over here and then drops down under the water and ends up on this island where it does some coastery stuff. Then it drops down under the water again and it ends up in this building, which hopefully I can get inside. Zoom, zoom, zoom. It's a bit dark in here now because of the... let's just do it this way. There we go. It's a dark ride section. So you've got... this is actually inspired by the dragon at the Legoland parks, particularly Legoland Windsor. So it comes into the brakes here. Again, no theming really. It was a bit poor. This was the second ride I think I built in the park. But it's got a dark ride section here. The story is you're trying to raid this fort, which is Fort Stanford. There's some of your fellow raiders in the jail there, but you bust them out as you come through here. These are the guards, these guys here. And then you come through into this section, and this is where the proper fighting starts. So you've got these guys shooting, awful pacing by the looks of things, unless it's broken down. Nope, just awful pacing. And then you've got cannon fire and all sorts. And then at the end, you burst into the treasure room, you nick the treasure, but you still got to escape. So you climb up here. And you go into the proper coaster section, which is over here, which I love this bit. This is my favourite bit of this ride. It just looks so cool. It's probably a bit too fast for a family coaster, and I'm pretty certain if you're too tall, this section here is not going to do you many favours. In terms of speed, 45 miles an hour, which again is quite fast for a family coaster. This is more of like a young thrill seeker coaster, I would say. But I just think it works really well. And I love this little outcrop here when you bank round. It's a good job, this bit, even if the rest of it isn't. And then we got a swinging ship over here as well, which is just called Shipwreck, which doesn't have anybody on it. I don't think anybody knows it exists, to be honest. And it's quite tricky to get to. You're meant to get to it on the boat. The boat was meant to more on the island here. But again, doesn't really work out. The Canadian section over here, Peak of the Rockies, which never really got going. Right now the coaster's broken down as well, so that's a pain. It's meant to be a RMC hybrid coaster. It's alright. There's a lot I would change. I would take out the entire first section, to be honest. Or at least from here, I'd have it swoop round and go straight into a lift hill. The only bit I really like is this section here, where it does the stall over the building. Everything else can kind of get in the bin, to be honest. There's not really much else to write home about there. And then we've got the Egyptian section here, which is Valley of the Nile, which has got dueling B&M coasters. We've got a flawless coaster and an inverted coaster, Antony and Cleopatra. We've got Scarab over here, which is a spinning coaster that never got connected up. And that's it. That's the park, except for one area over here, Heart of the Forest, which, if you've seen the title of this video, you'll know what I'm building today. So I've already built what I wanted to build for this episode. We're going to go into the time-lapse of that in a second. A lot of this really is me just padding out this episode to make it long enough to justify making, to be honest. But yeah, this is the area that inspired the whole park, actually. This was the first area of the park I came up with. So you've got the station here. You've got this, which is Forest Falls, which is a water coaster. Originally this was going to be a log flume, but I thought actually this is a good place to build a water coaster. Again, it's got horrific pacing issues, something to consider in the rebuilds going into the next park. It interacts nicely with the terrain here though and the coaster. This is something else though that scale wise needs to be shrunk down a lot, because you think how big that lift hill is, and actually how big is the drop? 102 feet, which for a water coaster I think makes it one of the tallest, which is insane when you think about. And also I tried to rebuild this section off camera when I was doing stuff and it looks horrendous. Not a fan of that either. Yeah, work needed. For a ride interacting with the water though, it does all right. It just needs work. And then this over here, which was my first attempt at a wooden coaster. This was actually built before Oh, this is called Rocky Mountaineer, by the way. I forgot to name that. It's the pun because it's a Rocky Mountain construction coaster. And it's Rocky Mountaineer because it's in the Rockies, which is partially in Canada at least. Most of it's in the USA. And then this is Wildwood, which was the first coaster I came up with for the park. There's actually another one that I never got to build, which was called... It was called Revenge of the Forest, but I think, again, I'd come up with another name for it, like Wrath or something, where it was this was originally built in Rollercoaster Tycoon 3, so it was a generic arrow coaster, technically Vekoma coaster, but it had arrow trains, and then it had a drop track partway through, and that was the big twist. So you came back into what looked like a fake station, and then it had a drop track and took you into an underground section and then finished. So yeah, it's alright as a coaster. There are parts where it's tragically slow. So it's meant to be a meandering section at the top here. It's kind of inspired by Boulder Dash, where it's like all up in the hills and things like that. And then it's around this section where things start to kick up a gear. And then it starts to pick up the pace. But I went for a lot of double ups and double downs and things like that, and it just cost me a lot of pacing. Here, for example, it should have just gone into a drop. The signature element of the ride is this bit here where it wraps around the lift hill. And then this is its lowest point down here where it reaches its top speed. Again, it's alright, but it doesn't quite reach the speeds that I wanted it to. I'm just looking 52 miles an hour, which sounds fast, but it never looks it on this ride. And then it loses all of that speed climbing up here again. And then it does double downs and all sorts. And this has 2 fly-throughs of the station as well. And it really loses steam on this one. Goes into this section, which I actually think looks pretty good from the path. And then the second one here, it just has no momentum left. Basically, it crawls into the brakes. So, could do better. Could do better. But yeah, I'm building. So over here, I wanted to build a village scene, a couple of rides, a pub, that sort of thing. Because this area looks very incomplete, and I wanted something to fill this gap here between the 2 themed areas. So, you're going to go away and watch the time-lapse. I'm going to load up the finished version here, and we're going to compare what this view looks like with the view of the finished article. Here we are then. We end where we began. I've just loaded this up for the first time in weeks. It's like 2 months ago that I recorded this, and I thought I'd built more than this, but I guess not. It's a start. That's the main thing. There's going to be a lot of like off-camera stuff as well, builds here and there and little bits and pieces to try and make this look better, but I'd just come back from a trip to Disneyland Paris when I built this. So you've got the raised carousel with the trees around it. It's not really a raised carousel at Disneyland, but I wanted to raise it to kind of make it a focal point. We got the queue that goes around the outside of it, which kind of looks alright. It's a lot more exposed than I remember it being. This bit here, for example, and let's be honest, I'm no master builder in PlanCo. I'm not one of the big creators who can just, you know, use a roof piece and turn it into this magnificent curb that goes around the edge of a ride. That's not my thing. I'm more of a ideas man than an execution man, as it turns out. But one thing I am happy with is the Robin Hood over here, which I was tempted to turn into 2 different kitchens. In fact, did I do that? I can't remember now. I've got here Robin Hood Pub, Robin Hood Kitchens. Maybe I did do that. Or is it the... hang on. So that's the... Yeah, that's the pub. What are the kitchens? Something else around here somewhere. Let me try and find it. Again, it's been a couple of months since I built this, so memory. I can't remember what I was doing while I was watching. Oh, it's a staff building. Of course it is. Which is around the back, over here. So yeah, there's a staff room, there's toilets, there's all sorts to try and keep people fed, watered, comfortable, I guess, and entertained. We've also got this over here, which I'm quite pleased with. It's a little raised walkway that takes you up to the top level here. So right now, you can get to the top 3 different ways, but previously you had to walk all the way around to get to the top, which if you just come off the train and you wanted to go for lunch, that was quite a trek. So I just added this little shortcut in. Is the park open here? No, I don't think it is. I think I closed it. I built some of this on my old PC as well, so it was a case of optimization, trying to get things to run properly. But I like this as a bridge. I think it works well as a bridge design. The train does fit through it. It doesn't look like it does, but believe me, it does. There needs to be a lot of rock work and things here as well. And to be honest, the more I look at this, the more I'm like, I don't know if I have the patience to finish this, knowing that the next game is coming out. So this is meant to be a mini-series, just adding stuff to the park and sort of warming up ready for the sequel. It's also a kind of test bed to see if my audience likes Planet Coaster, because there's no point investing loads of time and money into it if no one's going to watch. Even though I do want to play it still. We'll see about that one. It might be a streaming thing. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I kind of had a little go at making some facades here as well. The idea is to try and hide the massive building there in the background. Although in the next iteration of this, that building is going to be about half its current height. So you can imagine this roof piece is actually going to be more down here. The idea being that from the ground, it looks big and intimidating, but in reality, it's only like 100 foot tall. You can use force perspective, things like that. And the ride might actually be sunk into the ground a little bit to make that so. Along those lines, we'll see. Next time then, one thing I want to do is get this sky ride up and running. So I want to build stations at both ends, which we've got the actual structure, but I want to build the buildings around them. Queue line, the exit line, all that stuff, and I want this to turn into an actual viable transport method to get people around the park, because I think that is going to be useful, to put it bluntly, because right now the only way to get around other than walking is the train, and the train's not the most reliable. So having something like this where people can get on at one end, get off at the other. It's constantly moving. It's only 4 people at a time, but it's constantly moving. So there will always be a means for people to get across the park. I just think it's going to work so much nicer, so much better. For now, though, I'm going to leave you with a shot of the carousel here as I say thank you very much for watching. If you're excited about this series and you want it to go somewhere, then be sure to hit the like button. It's the best way to tell me. Drop some comments down below if you've got ideas for like how to hide this curb and things like that, then feel free to let me know down below. I need someone who's good at theming, so I can like build a ride, send it off to them, give them a basic premise of the story, and they can do like the dirty work for me, as it were. Because that would be quite handy, but we'll see. Planet Coaster 2 coming though, very excited about that. Hit the like button as well if you're excited for Planet Coaster 2. I've actually written a post about it on my website if you want to check that out. Link is in the description down below. I've been doing a lot of site work on the website, trying to make it look a little bit nicer, so some things are still a little bit iffy right now. I wouldn't recommend looking at it on mobile, for example, but check it out anyway. Check out the article, let me know what you think of Planet Coaster 2. Otherwise, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. A few more episodes like this coming up in the future, in the build up to PlanCo 2. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you for your continued support, it's very much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and until next time, as the carousel grinds to a halt, I will see you soon. Oh look, the train in the background as well, that's nice.